With the rising cost of food over the past few years, you may be wondering if $5 dinners are even still possible. Well, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some delicious family meals that cost right around $5 to make. And not only are these $5 dinners, these are $5 Crockpot dinners because we're going to be making them in the slow cooker. I know that spaghetti or pasta marinara is a really common budget-friendly family meal, but you're going to want to try this next recipe because it sort of takes that meal to a whole new level. You will not know that you are eating a really cheap meal. We're going to be making sort of like a sausage ragu, like a pasta bolognese, but with sausage and vegetables in the sauce. I'm telling you, it is absolutely fantastic. You will not make spaghetti sauce the same way once you try this. B and that QT cup over there on the back of the counter are making a little mirepoix. I have 1 stalk of celery, 1 carrot, and about 1/4 of an onion that I'm chopping up, and I also peeled a few cloves of garlic to press into the recipe later. Now, you can saute this with a couple tablespoons of oil or butter on your stove and then transfer it over. I happen to have a crock pot that has a saute function, so I can actually do that right in the crock pot and then change it over to the slow cook function later when we get everything else going. So after I get the mirepoix a head start of about 3 or 4 minutes with a little oil, I'm adding 1/2 pound of ground sausage. I'm just using regular pork sausage because we're going to season it up with some Italian seasoning here in a little bit, but you could use Italian sausage if you wanted, or chicken sausage. I just went for the most cost effective of the sausages that I could find at the grocery store. I also made sure I minced up my garlic to add to the pot at the end. And now I'm adding a 28-ounce can of tomatoes. You could use crushed tomatoes if you don't like as much texture in your sauce, or you could just use petite diced tomatoes like I did. And normally I'd use an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, but I didn't have any. So I'm just gonna use about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, and I'm gonna add a little extra liquid later. I'm seasoning this with 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning and then about 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flake. That's gonna make it a little spicy, so you could leave that out if you wanted. And I'm also adding about 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce as well to give it a little bit more of a beefy flavor. Salt and pepper to taste, and then normally I would just add about 1/2 cup of liquid water or broth, but I put in a full cup since I used the tomato paste instead of the tomato sauce. I'm gonna give that a nice stir to combine everything and then pop the lid on. This can simmer on low for 5, 6, 7 hours. I did not get mine going until the afternoon, so I'm gonna let it simmer on high for about 3.5 to 4 hours. And then about 20 minutes before dinner time, I'm ready to cook up my pasta. I can get 1 pound of spaghetti and lots of other cuts of pastas at my Walmart for 98 cents. You might be able to get an even better price if you're buying it in bulk or find a good sale. But I'm just gonna cook that up to al dente, and then my sauce is ready to serve. I'm telling you, this is so fantastic. It smells amazing. The longer it simmers, the more flavorful it gets. Such simple ingredients, but you would not know that this is a budget meal, in my opinion. As I said before, if you want a smoother consistency, you can use crushed tomatoes instead of the diced tomatoes like I used. We kind of like it chunky like this, and it's just fantastic. If you have a little bit of Parmesan cheese, you're welcome to top it with that. It doesn't necessarily need it. Mine was a little bit spicy because I put that red pepper flake in it, but everybody really enjoyed this. It is such a winner. Another quintessential budget meal, in addition to pasta dishes, is beans and rice, right? We've all heard that. Rice and rice, really cost-effective, filling, satisfying meal. But that doesn't mean it can't be flavorful. We're actually gonna take that dish up a notch with this next recipe. It's for a white beans with sausage in the crock pot. For this recipe, I'm using 1.5 cups of dry Great Northern beans, and I highly recommend soaking those overnight. But when I forget, like I did last night, I use a quick soak method, and it works like a charm every time. I just rinse the beans off, make sure that there aren't any like pebbles or rocks, take out any bad beans, and then I put them into a pot with about 6 cups of water for each cup of dry beans. I bring that to a boil, and I let it boil for just a couple of minutes, like 2-3 minutes, and then I take it off the stove, turn the heat off, but leave the lid on the pot and let them sit for about an hour. And that, to me, works just as well as soaking the beans overnight. My beans are done with their quick soak, so I drained them and they're in the crock pot now. You can see how much more plump they already are, but they are not done cooking. They have a long way to go, so we're gonna get them going with the rest of the ingredients. I have about a 1/4 cup of chopped onion, 2 or 3 cloves of garlic minced. I was so excited to see jalapenos back in stock at the grocery store, so this is 1 jalapeno chopped, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 packet of ranch mix. This is smoked sausage, and I found a brand that is only, I think, $2.86 for a package of it. This is half of that package, and I actually put it into my little rotary food processor to chop it up really, really small. You could just do that with a knife. You could use a different kind of smoked sausage if you want to. I just went with the least expensive kind. 1 can of green chili enchilada sauce. And I really want my mixture to soak up most of the liquid in here, so I'm gonna start with just 3 cups of water or broth. I'm just gonna use water and add a little bit of extra salt and some pepper. I'm gonna give this a stir, and I'm gonna cook mine on high for 3 to 4 hours, and I'm just gonna check back and see if it's starting to look like it needs more liquid. I can always add a little bit more water later, but we're gonna start with just the 3 cups plus the 1 can of enchilada sauce since I quick soaked my beans. You could also do this on low for probably 5 or 6 hours. About 1.5 cups of rice is what I would make to feed my family of 5. So when I cook that up on the stove, it's actually gonna produce like somewhere between 3 and 4 cups. And that cost me around 55 cents. I wish that I had used just a little bit less water, especially since I did the quick soak, because my beans were just a little bit runnier than I would have liked them to be. They had just a little bit more liquid in them, which it's still good. The rice soaks that up. What I like to do sometimes is just take a little bit of that bean mixture and put it in the blender, like maybe just a cup or so of it, and kind of puree it just a little bit and pour it back in, and it kind of helps everything thicken up just a little bit, but you don't have to do that at all. Oh man, like such simple, basic ingredients. This is so tasty, I'm telling you. That little bit of sausage just adds so much flavor, and since everything was able to simmer together for so long, I had mine on high for about 5 hours. Actually, I kind of forgot about it a little bit, but man, everything's tasty. It's got that little bit of kick from the jalapeno. Wow, so good, really good. A lot of these ideas are very simple, yes, and when you are trying to stay on a budget, sometimes you have to sacrifice variety and you have to make do with some simpler meals, but that doesn't mean that you have to satisfy flavor. And that is where the slow cooker can be a huge help, because allowing things to simmer, allowing things to cook slowly over a long period of time really helps lock in some flavor. So with some basic ingredients and by seasoning things really well, you can still have a really tasty meal. Now, if you do not have all of the same seasonings and spices that I have, the pinch of this or the dash of that I'm adding to things to make it flavorful, that's okay. Salt and pepper go a long way. A little bit of oil, if you have it, is helpful for sauteing things, but those things are not always necessary for the recipe. They just add flavor. They're not really the sources of the nutrition. But if you want to plan for how to stock your kitchen on a tight budget with the things that are going to help you make flavorful dishes, I made a video about this last year. I outlined how I would stock my kitchen with these basic seasonings, spices, condiments, different things to help with cooking, just $10 at a time. So you could spend $10 a week or $10 a month, and over the course of time, you could stock your kitchen with the things that will help you make more flavorful dishes. I will leave that video linked in the description box down below in case you want to check it out after you watch this one. We're getting a super easy but super delicious potato soup going in the crock pot. I'm starting with 1 stalk of celery and 1 carrot chopped. You could put some chopped onion in here as well, but with my potato soup, I prefer to use onion powder because I want the onion flavor, but I don't like the chunky onions in my potato soup. I can still get 5 pounds of russet potatoes at my Walmart for $2.74, and I don't even need 5 pounds for this. I only need about 2.5, which is half the bag. So I have peeled and chopped 2.5 pounds of potatoes, and those are going in the slow cooker now. Onion powder and garlic powder. I use about a teaspoon of each. Salt and pepper to taste. Now remember that half of a smoked sausage link we had left after the beans recipe? I'm actually gonna put that into the potato soup as well. And I just diced that up into little pieces. like so. This is seasoned, so it's gonna add a lot of flavor to the potato soup on its own. And then water or broth. If you've got bouillon, great. If you don't, just use water. You can always add just a little extra salt and pepper or seasoning to your crock pot to make up for it. I use enough water to make sure that the potatoes are submerged. So this time it took about 4 cups. Sometimes I have to add just a little bit more. I wanna make sure that they're all down in the water so that they cook nicely. You could do this next step at the end if you want, when you're about to serve it and stir it in, but I always put the cream cheese, and I'm using half a block or 4 ounces on top of the potato soup while it's cooking because it will soften, so it'll be really easy to stir in once everything is cooked. High for, 3 to 4 hours, low for 5 to 6, and the potatoes should be cooked through at that point. Typically speaking, when I'm doing these super extreme budget meal plans, a $5 dinner to feed a family of 5, I am trying to make each serving be around 500 calories, and that is the case with these recipes that I am sharing with you. When I add it up, just kind of do a rough estimate. So it would be more if you want to add, like a couple pieces of bread. It would be more if you were serving only 4 people or 3 people instead of 5, like are in my family. But in my opinion, these are not meant to be a sustainable way of eating and living. They're meant to be meals that kind of get us through in a pinch. So as I do in a lot of my extreme budget meal plans, I want to encourage you, if you are struggling with food insecurity, to seek help. You can seek help from local food banks, from philanthropies or organizations in your area that address housing and food insecurity. Places like churches, schools, hospitals, police, and fire departments often have a list of resources for you. So be sure to reach out if that is something that you are struggling with. Now, if you wanted to make this thicker, you could stir in a cornstarch slurry. Just stir together a tablespoon of cornstarch with about 3 tablespoons of cold water, and then stir that into the hot mixture and let it continue simmering in the crock pot for another, 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes, and it'll thicken up a little bit. But I have enough in my budget for 4 ounces of cheddar cheese. It cost me 99 cents for 4 ounces of cheddar cheese that I can shred up. So I am just going to keep this kind of soupy and then stir in a little bit of cheese into each bowl. Of videos that address solutions for just a regular basic family kitchen. If you're looking for more budget meal ideas, there's a link in the description box to a playlist with all of my budget videos that I have made in the past few years, or you can check out one of these videos next that YouTube thinks you might want to watch.